guys, what's going on? Amy Thomas here again, and we're going to continue on with our SEO training here. In this video, we're actually going to go over what it takes to rank web pages, the on and off factors that it takes for Google and all the other search engines like Bing and Yahoo to actually rank your web pages and your content as well as your videos at the very top of the search engines. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so the first thing that's the major ranking factor, with all things being equal, is the authority of the domain page. This is actually how long the page has been around, does Google trust it, and do they actually look at it as a credible source. So how this works is after your site's been around for some time, and it's got some backlinks pointing to it, and it's got some trust factor from Google. Now this usually happens after about 3 to 6 months time frame. Google starts trusting the domain a little more, and it will rank your content higher even without backlinks or anything like that, just because it trusts you and it trusts the domain a little more. It will rank your content higher even without backlinks. I've had this happen a few times where I've posted an article and literally within a week my content ranks in the first 5 pages or so of Google and I don't have any backlinks pointing to it. A few times it's even ranked on the second page at the top with nothing pointing to it. So it's just a matter of creating that domain, put content up, quality content on a regular basis, and it will get more authority. But mind you, it doesn't have as much as authority as a site like, let's say, Facebook or YouTube, because obviously those sites are very well trusted. Now, the next factor is the age of the domain. So the older your domain name is, the older it's been around, the more chance you're going to have of ranking, because Google loves sites that have been around for a while. It shows that they've been in the game for a while, and it shows that it's not some low quality site. Over the years, affiliates especially have gained the system by creating 2 or 3 web pages, trying to rank them in the search engines, and then usually those types of sites don't add any value to anybody's life. So those are not what's actually going to end the search that people are searching for. So they're not going to rank those pages. You need to have a page that's been around for a while and created good quality content. And when people search for something, your page will show up and it will help them end their search. That's what Google's looking for. And then the next thing is relevancy to the search phrase. So this has 2 different factors. It has both on-page optimizations and off-page optimizations. So basically, the relevancy is how relevant when someone types in the keyword. For instance, let's take MLM leads, for example. On the on-page optimization is how relevant is the content to that specific keyword. And then for off-page optimization, it's the same thing, but the actual backlinks that are linking in, how relevant are they as to like what are they actually linking to your website? What is relevant to that term? So I'm just going to give you an example. So if they're linking into your website by using the term MLM leads, then that is very relevant, and Google is gauging it as if it's relevant to the actual keyword and to that anchor text, as they call it. So that's what's linking to your page, is whatever the anchor text is that is linking to your web page has a lot to do with whether it's relevant to the search phrase as well. Now, the next is authority of the domain and its pages. Now, we're actually going to go through what this means. So, all new pages will have 0 authority when they first start out. The higher the authority of a domain, the better chances it has to rank in the search engines. So, when you first throw up your blog, you're going to have 0 page rank. And you're also going to have 0 authority. Google does not trust your site at this point just because it's brand new. Now, most people measure the authority of a domain based on its PR, which is also known as page rank. Firefox, for instance, has an actual PR checker. So when you land on a page, it tells you the actual page rank. This is a great SEO tool if you don't have it already. But if you've been in the industry at all for a little bit, I'm pretty sure you've heard of the term PR. So Google has a scale of PR0, which is a brand new blog that you just threw up, right up to sites like Facebook, YouTube, Google, the White House. All of these sites are going to be in the range of PR9s and PR10s. These are the sites that are very well trusted, literally anything they publish. So for instance, Facebook, you see those pages showing up everywhere. YouTube, you see those showing up everywhere in the search engines. And that's why. These domains are trusted and Google loves their content. And a blog that starts is obviously going to be a PR0. So you're going to have to build some authority on your own blog before those pages are going to start ranking. Now, with that being said, we will increase our PR ourselves of our domain with backlinks. So we'll stimulate that by building backlinks to our own content. After a while, you're going to start seeing your PR or your page rank rise. And Google does updates, usually around every 6 to 12 weeks, I believe, is when they actually refresh their index. So usually about every 2 to 3 months or so, they go and they update it. Now, this has changed a bit over the years, but that's how I think it's been most recently. So don't quote me on that, but they do update it every 6 to 12 weeks roughly. And what happens is over time, our site will rise both in PR and authority. And Google is going to start to see it as an authority site after the page rank starts to rise up. It's going to gain more authority, and it's going to be a website, or I should say a web page, that's going to rise. Because what's going to happen is the actual web pages is what we're going to build backlinks to. But overall, as you strengthen your pages, and I mean your inner pages of your domain itself, the domain is going to get very, very popular as well. So you'll start seeing your main site, for instance, mine's amy-thomas.com. As I start building backlinks to those inner pages or those web pages, it strengthens my whole domain as a whole. And you'll start seeing your domain rank. So my main keyword that I want to rank for all the time is MLM blog, network marketing, basically anything surrounding that type of thing. So after a while, my main domain will rise to the search terms simply because of the fact that my blog is very, very relevant to MLM, and all of the web pages have a very high PR. And they're related and they're relevant to what the term is that I'm actually trying to rank for. Now, the next thing is the age of the domain. Now, most domains will not rank in the first 3 to 6 months until Google trusts them. So usually it takes 3 to 6 months for Google to start looking at your site and start looking at them to rank that site. Now, this statement right here, it can change. Recently, as of a couple months ago, there has been lots of people that I've been coaching that have created sites, and within 2 weeks, they're getting them to rank. So right now, Google's index is all over the place. They're making a lot of updates, so don't let that scare you. And that's why also further on, I'm going to teach you how to rank YouTube videos, and those can rank right off the bat while you're waiting for your domain pages to rank. Now, this stuff changes all the time, as I said, so we just keep building backlinks and we keep building content. So much of your stuff is going to rank and some of it won't. But in general, they don't start looking at your site with authority until after the 3 to 6 month mark. And it's at that point that a lot of times you'll just publish your content and it pretty much starts ranking naturally fairly high. And then as you build backlinks, it just pushes it to the first page. Now, Google determines the age of the domain based on when when they first crawled the site and when they first discovered links. Now, there's kind of a debate on this about basically when they first crawled the site, which would mean when you first put your first piece of content up there. Now, other people would say that it's when you first registered your domain. I'm on the side that believes that once you actually first publish that piece of content, that's when they first start indexing your site. That's when they first crawl your site and see this domain as a new domain. I believe it's when you start publishing content. And then when you start publishing more and more content, they tend to crawl your site more often. Also, they start finding the first backlinks. Now, that's another factor to help them index your site as well, is the amount of quality backlinks that you're getting. Now we're going to talk about relevancy to the search phrase. Now, this is really big. This is where a lot of people either do it right or they do it very wrong. So the search engine's goal is to end the search. The search engine's job is to provide the most relevant content based on the search typed into the search bar. So if somebody types in MLM leads, for example, Google's whole job, their entire goal at the end of the day, is that very first search term is to make sure that that's the one that is going to give you the best answer to what you are searching for. Now, if not, then the second and third spots, those are the next ones on the totem pole that they think is the best result to actually put there. So if the first one does not do its job, their whole goal is for the second and the third result, worst case scenario, for one of those two to end your search. And that means that you'll stop searching for that term or that keyword, and that's going to answer your question. Now, keep this in mind that if you have really, really crappy content and your ranking is horrible and people are bouncing off that page really quick, that's really going to affect your rankings. You're going to plummet very, very fast. So creating good content, yes, I know you're hearing me say this over and over again, but creating valuable content people like, don't try to pitch so often, and you're going to actually get way, way better results with your content. The next thing is our goal is to be the web page that shows up at the very top of the search engines. Our job, as I just said, is to end the search with quality blog posts, videos, and content that we create. Now, the video and the content we can also create on third-party authority sites. So my whole philosophy on SEO, what I do is I want to rank my blog posts over a longer period of time. So I don't go as aggressive with my blog when I build links. I build them at a nice steady pace and I'm consistent. But in the meantime, when I'm trying to rank my blog posts, what I do is I create another video for YouTube, and then I go to other authority domains because these can handle a lot more backlinks a lot faster. They can handle a lot more abuse, I like to call it, and you can rank those much, much faster while you're waiting for your blog posts and your domains to become more of an authority website. So you can get results very, very quickly with YouTube and authority sites, and then once your blog posts start to rank, you start having a real asset that you can control as well. Now, the one thing I want you to remember is that each keyword phrase has its own search. This is the one thing that when I first started out, I didn't understand quite as much, and I think a lot of people have a problem understanding this. They think that if it's MLM lead and then MLM leads with an S, they think that that's basically the same keyword. You should actually be creating 2 web pages for every single term that you want to rank for. So if you wanted to rank for the term MLM lead and MLM leads, those usually both have different amounts of search volume. And even if they're about the exact same thing, you still need and want to create two separate web pages for that. So, for instance, as you see here, this girl that's at the top has MLM leads, the secret to generating MLM leads online. Now, here's the one thing you want to look at first of all. She is ranking for both of these because she's building backlinks to the video for both. Now, you can do this. You can try to create one web page and rank it for relevant stuff like MLM leads, free MLM leads, but the best result will usually require you to create different ones. So if you notice right now, what we're looking at is search results. They're different. You've got the video in the first spot, that's the same. The MLM leads is the same. But the third result is different. It's got a Facebook page over in the MLM leads, and then on the over on MLM lead, and then on the MLM lead search, MLMleads.com is number 4, and then on MLM lead search, there's another guy. It's a Pash Leads or something. So what I'm trying to get at is what you want to realize is that you want to create a different web page for each term. You can go after relevant ones, and I do suggest you do that. But if you're going after MLM lead and the actual keyword section where you optimize your content, you would want to put MLM leads as well. But your main content, your main keyword that you're going after, you need to do one keyword at a time to get the very best results, especially when you're going after highly competitive terms. Now, on-page optimization, this is how we set up our web pages to tell the search engines exactly what our content is about. Now, if you skip this step, basically everything else I teach you in this course is completely worthless. When you get to your on-page optimization, when you want it to rank, you will show up when you get it right, you will show up very, very high in the search engines. Just from the fact that 90% of people, you know what, I'll even say 95% of people actually skip this step. They create great content, but they don't know anything about on-page optimization. They don't apply it, and then they get horrible results. So if you, let's say, have your blog and you've just started it, your page rank is 0 or 1, and somebody else has the exact same article or keyword that they're going after, if you create that on-page optimization, and they don't, you are going to rank so much higher. Now, I know I went over on-page optimization in another video, and we're going to get to that, but it's very, very important. It needs to be, the keyword needs to be in the title at least once, if not twice. It needs to be sprinkled throughout your content. One of those keywords needs to be in bold. One should be italicized. One should be underlined. There's a percentage ratio that it should be. All of these things come into effect, and it's very, very important that you stick to this, and you will get really good results. So if you skip the on-page optimization and you don't want to put the time into doing this, then you're really wasting your time. I take blogging very seriously. This is my business. I don't look at this as a hobby, so putting the time into doing the on-page optimization for me is absolutely critical. This should be done before moving forth in any other form of SEO. It is the most important by far. On-page and off-page are pretty much equal, but I'll go out of my way to say that it's one of the most important steps because you're saving yourself a lot of time and a lot of frustration by getting that on-page right from the very beginning. If you just create your content and you don't take the time to get the on-page right, you're going to have to do twice the amount of work. So I don't know about you, but I don't like having to do extra work that I don't need to. So just get it right from the beginning. Alright, so now on to the actual on-page optimization factors. So these are some of the things that are really going to make a difference of how well your page ranks right from the get-go without any links. So the first thing is doing keyword research. Doing keyword research the right way from the very beginning is going to make a massive difference as far as getting your content to rank right out of the gate. A lot of people do this wrong. They don't put any thought into their keyword research. Literally just type into Google keyword tool, put a basic keyword in, and then they just run with it. You want to go after more of those long tail search phrases because they have much less competition. It makes life much easier, and there are keyword tools that you can use. I'm going to show you later on the one I use personally. And this is going to work really well. This is going to make your blogging and even creating videos and everything else to rank much easier. You don't have to use keyword research tools like I do. You can just use the free Google keyword planners, but the tools definitely help, and it makes ranking your content that much easier. Now, the next thing is your meta keywords. So when you do a blog post, or for instance, when you do a YouTube video, the YouTube video, it's actually called tags on your video, just so you know, but it's meta keywords on your blog posts. Basically, you're putting in keywords that you want to be found for, or that search phrases to tell Google and other search engines what the post is or what that web page is about. So this is a very big factor, so make sure you have your keywords in there. The next thing is the meta description. Now, your meta description is the part, for instance, when you go to the search engine and you type in a search, below the actual web page it's presenting, it will give you a description of what that actual page is about. So having your meta description set up the right way, which I am going to go over with you and show you how to do this makes a really big difference as to whether your site is going to come up or not when it's searched for. And then the next thing is the keyword in the title. So this is another thing that I see a lot of people not doing. I'm not really sure why. They create content around the word, say, MLM leads, but MLM leads isn't anywhere in their title, and it doesn't show up at all. So that's a really big, huge factor. You want to make sure your keyword is in the title. And then the next thing is the keywords in the alt tags. So the alt tags is the image. The images on your website can either be named a keyword, as well as if you put them into the alt tag, which tells Google that this image is the most relevant to MLM leads. If you haven't already figured it out, in Google, they already have a search feature just for images. So you're losing a lot of traffic. Not just the fact that this goes into your actual web page, so it works well for on-page optimization, but you're losing a lot of traffic on the search engines by not optimizing your alt tags that way, because it tells Google not only what the image is about, but what the post is about as well. So there's a lot of people that just search images for stuff like that, so you want to use those alt tags, and you want to make sure they're optimized both for search in your blog and for search in the images section in Google. The next thing is the header tags. Now, this is your H1 through H6 tags. Now, usually people, or most people, use H1 through H3, but there are tags all the way up to H6. Those are more like subheadings and stuff like that, but this tells Google what your content is actually about. It puts a strong emphasis on it. This is probably the next most important factor besides the title. So it's the title and then the header tags. You usually want your main keyword in the H1 or H2 tag. Now, if you're using a WordPress blog, for example, when you're using it in your blog, usually by default, your title is considered the H1 tag. So your very next tag should have your keyword in your H2 tag. This is very important, and if you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about right now, we're going to go through this a little later, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. So the next thing is keyword density. Now, let's say if you write an article that's 1,000 words, your keyword density will be the percentage of how many times your keyword shows up in that 1,000 words. Now, it used to be that the average was 3 to 5%, and that's what you wanted to happen. Now, these days, that's probably a little much. They might actually give you a little slap on the wrist. I usually try to keep my keywords in there between 1 and 3%. I don't try to make it a set number, just somewhere in that range, and I change it each time. This is where a lot of people recently went wrong, and this is where a lot of people get affected, and they get over optimization penalties, or a slap on the wrist, I like to call it. So if you are over optimizing your content too much, you can get a penalty and it won't rank because you're trying to keyword stuff your entire article. So to me, I just try to keep it between the 1 and the 3% mark. I don't shoot for a certain number like 3% every time, because you've got to think about this logically. Google is not a person. It is a computer, and it is very, very, very smart. If you do your content and every single article is at 3%, it's very easy to connect the dots and to figure out like, hey, wait a minute, they're trying to gain or take over the search engines. So you want things to look as natural as possible. This is something that I really messed up on in the past, and now I try to keep everything I do very, very natural. I don't try to use a certain amount of keyword density that I get every single time. And sometimes every time I go a little bit over that 3%, I won't get too worried about it, because as long as it looks natural and I'm keeping things where I'm not trying to overly stuff the keywords, so it doesn't make sense when you're reading it, always keep your readers in mind as well. So keep it looking natural and make sure that your posts are readable. And then the next thing is internal linking to your content. Now, this is another big factor that I see people not do. You need to link to your content. Not just your own, but also outside sources. Now, you want to link to authority sites and stuff like that, and I'm going to show you more of this in an example later. But you want to link to your content often. If you don't value your content enough to even link your own site back to your own content, basically that tells Google that you don't have enough credible information that you would even suggest to your readers to go back and read that. So interlink your content as much as possible, as long as it's relevant. And also, it helps Google find it much easier, and it's also a better experience for your readers. So do it often, because it really, really helps. And then the next thing that plays a big part, and a lot of people don't realize in the on-page optimization, is the bounce rate. So when people show up on your web page, okay, I guess this really doesn't have to do with on-page optimization, but it's a factor that you need to take into consideration on your on-page optimization. So that's why I've put it here. Your bounce rate is when somebody lands on your web page and then they bounce off really quickly, meaning that they go on there, they look at your content, and then within like 5 seconds they leave. Now, usually what happens is this is telling Google that your content is not good, or it's not relevant to the search term that they were looking for. So we are going to go over this again later in another video on how you can fix this, but your bounce rate, in my opinion, is still tied in with on-page optimization, because if you don't have your content structured properly and it doesn't read well and it doesn't help people end their search and they bounce off of it, then to me, this is part of the on-page optimization process, and it's going to affect your rankings. Your rankings will plummet in the search engines if you have a high bounce rate. And then the last thing is page engagement. Page engagement is when people like your content. So Facebook likes, they share it on Facebook, they actually leave comments on your blog or on your content. This is a good sign that people like what they're reading. When they're actually engaging in your content and leaving comments based on what you wrote, that's really, really good. Now, there is ways that you can get people to engage more, and that's to encourage them to leave comments. ask them questions so that they'll answer those questions below your blog post or your Facebook posts. But you really, really want to engage your audience, because the longer they stay on your webpage, the better off you are. And all of these things tell Google that the content is very relevant to what they're looking for, and it will help your pages rank that much higher. All right, so now we're going to move on to off-page optimization. Now, off-page optimization is a little bit different. If you want to rank your web pages in the search engines, you have to do off-page optimization. I mean, you can go after keyword searches that have very, very little competition, and you can rank without any backlinks at all to those. But if you really want to get the money terms, the stuff that people are going to buy, the buyer keywords, you're going to need to have backlinks. Off-page optimization refers to how many other web pages or websites are linking to your web page or content. A backlink to your website is like voting for the president. The website linking to your website is telling Google that they vouch for you and they trust your content as the source for that topic. So when somebody links to you, they're basically telling Google that they trust you and they're vouching for you. If you're a person that has a website and you link to a bad website like porn or Viagra pills or something like that, Google is not going to like that website. So they look at it like this, that as a webmaster, you own your specific website, and you should be smart enough to only link to the content that is safe for your users, as well as content that is relevant to what they're searching for. So the more web pages that link to your website, that tells Google that your content is popular. And if all other factors are in place, it will raise the probability that your content will rank higher in the search engines. The more sites that are linking into yours, the better. Now, that's the easy way for me to explain it so that you can understand. Now, I want to be very clear on this. You don't want to get carried away and build massive amount of backlinks all at once, because then it's going to freak Google out and they're going to think, wait a minute, this isn't natural at all. So we will go over later how to actually build backlinks the proper way and how to do it so your website remains safe. But with all things being equal, the more backlinks, the better. And also the quality of the backlinks plays a part as well, and we'll go over that later on. Now, we're going to talk about off-page optimization factors. Now, these are some of the factors that are really going to make a huge difference. I don't want you to get overwhelmed right now. Honestly, this stuff is pretty simple. You'll see as we go through this course, it's not crazy. It's not hard to understand. As you get going, it gets very, very straightforward. So these are some of the factors of off-page backlinks or off-page optimization that makes a difference. So the first thing is the number of backlinks pointing to your site. So the more backlinks, usually the better. Now, if you have a bunch of low quality backlinks, that's not exactly good, but we'll go over that in a little bit later to show you where to get the quality stuff. Next, the number of quality authority backlinks, as well as those backlinks page rank. So the higher the PR of the link. So if you get a link coming in from a high web page with a high PR, let's say it's a PR 5, it's a very, very good backlink. That backlink is worth way more than thousands and thousands of low quality backlinks. And that's going to really get on Google's radar, like, hey, this is a good site. They have these high quality links linking to them. They must know what they're talking about. And the next thing is the number of Facebook likes and shares. So if you don't already know, social media is growing by the day. When your content is popular, it's just natural. It's going to be shared on Facebook. It's going to be shared on Twitter, for example. So the number of Twitter tweets and retweets you get is popular. The number of Google+, all three of these are huge factors. When you have good content, it's going to show up on these three platforms. And then the next thing that matters is anchor text of your backlinks. So An anchor text example is like when you're on a blog page and then they link to something. Usually it's kind of a shiny blue color. It's another color from what the content would be. You click on it and it takes you somewhere. That link that you're clicking on usually says something like click here. It'll say the name of the keyword like MLM leads or click here for MLM leads. That's an anchor text. When the link has text that you actually click on to link to another web page, that is what the anchor text is. And then the next thing is anchor text diversity. Now, this is where a lot of people got penalized. The recent updates were called Ping 1 and Panda, and some of the updates that happened were anchor text over optimization. So basically, when somebody wanted to rank for MLM leads, over 100 or almost 100% of the links that they were building said MLM leads. Now, 4 or 5 years ago, if you got massive amounts, and I'm talking massive amounts of links saying MLM leads, then it was game on. You were going to be the first person to rank in Google, and they weren't as advanced as they are today. It was very, very easy to rank for terms back then. You just needed to get a massive amount of links to the keyword that you wanted to rank for. And you would shoot right up to the top. Now, in this day and age, you want to have anchor text diversity, meaning usually a good rule of thumb is 30% of your links should be MLM leads. Another 30 or 40% should be a variation of that. So click here for MLM leads, or MLM leads by Amy Thomas. It should have MLM leads in the actual keyword, but a variation of it. So it's got other words added to it. And then finally, your other 30 to 40%, depending on how you vary them, should be something generic. It should be like click here, or it could be a naked URL, meaning it would be, say, www.amy-thomas.com/MLM leads. And then generic stuff like, hey, check out Amy Thomas, online, or check out amy-thomas.com. And then some of these links should actually be, like I said, your brand name. So just Amy Thomas Online, that type of thing. I'm just using my website as example, but you would go ahead and use yours. So anchor text diversity is very important. Most people can't get this through their heads. Google is very smart. It's smart enough to realize that when links are coming into your site, if your site is optimized for MLM leads, then that's what you want to rank for. But they're looking for something more natural. When people are linking to your content with all types of links, because let's think about it logically. If people are going to link, they're not just going to link with the keyword. It's just not going to happen. They're going to link with stuff like click here, Amy Thomas Online, check out Amy Thomas. They're going to link with different types of stuff, and you've got to think about it logically. Like, what would an actual human being link to you with? So if you want to keep it very natural all across the board, that's what you need to be doing. So the next thing is IP diversity. So to think of this in a way so that I want to make sure that you understand what I'm saying. So let's say that you get a retweet, for example, or you get a Twitter tweet. Somebody tweets your content, and then another 1,000 people retweet your content, or they tweet your content as well. You're only actually getting one link vote from one IP address because it's coming from Twitter. So it's got one IP address. Just because everyone is tweeting your content doesn't mean it's got 1,000 different IP addresses. Think about an IP address like this. Think of it as an actual home address. So my computer that I'm using has a different IP address from the computer that you're sitting there watching this video on. Your computer has an individual IP address as well. The same thing goes with a website. A website is hosted on an individual IP address of a host. So if you get a bunch of links all from the same IP address, it's like one vote from that website. Now, that's not to say that it's not good to have a ton of tweets and all that stuff, but you really don't want to go out there and just game the system or just get thousands and thousands of tweets, because it's only coming from one IP address. It's only coming from Twitter's IP address. You really want IP diversity. Links coming from many different IPs is very, very good in Google's eyes. And then the next thing is diversity of your links. So a lot of people, for instance, they put a lot of stock in one type. So they'll go out there and they'll get all social bookmarks, or they'll get all blog comments, or they'll get all private blog networks. You really need a diversity of your links, because you might be asking why though? Why, Amy? Why do I have to do this? Because it's natural. You're going to hear me say this over and over. A natural link profile is very, very important. You want a wide variety of links so that way it doesn't show Google that there's something fishy going on. You want to keep everything looking on the up and up so that human beings are actually linking to you, or so that it looks like human beings are actually linking to you. Now, the next thing is backlinks. Now, backlinks are the most important factor. I know I said earlier that on-page optimization was, and that is really, really important, and I do feel that way. But according to Google, backlinks are the most important factor, and what they weigh the most on. So that's why I'm telling you this. Now, in general, web pages with the best quality of links and the most backlinks will rank the highest in the search engines. So with that being said, you need to strike a healthy balance and get a wide variety of links in order to stay safe. So if you just go out there and build Twitter retweets, you just build social media links like Twitter, Google+, and Facebook, your sites will still rank because of that, but it's going to rank a lot faster with a wide variety of links. And also, what happens is when Google tries to go and make these changes, say for instance, and they devalue a certain type of link, you're going to be much safer than the person that spent all of their time building just one link. So that's the way that you want to go ahead and build your links. You want to have a bunch of different types of backlinks besides social links. All you have to do is figure out which links you're going to have to get a hold of, and then backlink those back to your site. Because what's going to happen is Google's going to change the way they do stuff, and then if you have a nice, flowing amount of backlinks, you're going to stay on top when they change stuff, and the people who only had Facebook likes and only Google+, those people are going to get knocked off, and then they're going to have a lot harder time trying to build that back up if they didn't diversify what they were doing in the first place. Okay, now here's an example of a backlink. We talked about anchor text earlier. So in most cases, we want anchor text links, and anchor text is what we see here. So if we see where the actual arrow is pointing, it says Pure Leverage Review, and it's kind of in a blue color. When somebody clicks that part that says Pure Leverage Review, it's going to actually link back to my content. So this is an anchor text link. It's actually a link in text, and that's exactly what anchor text link is. But it's good to have a wide variety of anchors, meaning like I told you earlier, you want it, Pure Leverage Review, click here for Pure Leverage Review. You want variations of your keyword, but a variety of anchors is very, very important. So it's all those anchor texts are going to go to the same link, but it's different. They're going to link out to the same place, but the wording is going to be different. So Pure Leverage Review, Pure Leverage Bonus, Pure Leverage Bonuses, Pure Leverage Scam. Those are all different examples. So it's all varieties of that keyword and different stuff people are searching for. But you also want variations of those keywords as well. So basically what I'm saying is it's the main keyword, and then like I told you, click here for Pure Leverage, and then Pure Leverage Amy Thomas, Pure Leverage Review, Pure Leverage with Amy Thomas, Amy Thomas's Pure Leverage Review. You want different words put in there with different keyword variations, because this looks way more natural than just putting a million links to Pure Leverage Review for every single thing. So the next thing is besides variations of the keywords, you also want branded anchors. So a branded anchor is just text of your own brand. So Amy Thomas, or Amy Thomas Online, or Amy Thomas Online's blog, Amy Thomas's blog. And all of this stuff is my brand name. So right now, that's another thing that Google's really putting a lot of weight on, is brands. So keep that in mind. You want to link to your content with your brand as well. Now, the next thing is the naked URL. Haha, don't get excited. It's not like it sounds. But a naked URL is, if you see at the bottom where I have www.amy-thomas.com/pure leverage review. This is an example of a naked URL. So that's something that they look for as well. So you actually use some of your anchor text just as URL. So what happens is you build some of those links just directly to the URL. This goes a long way when you're trying to make different variations of anchor text, because it looks much, much more natural, because some people are simply going to cut and paste the link to what they're trying to link to. It looks much, much more natural. It makes it look like it's a human being actually linking back. So Google really, really likes when they see this. So this in general, it's a general overview of how on-page and off-page SEO goes. We're going to go into a lot more detail in the future videos here. We're going to go through how to set up your on-page optimization, and we're also going to go over where to get backlinks and where to use some of the tools to make it much easier for you to build backlinks, so you're not taking up hours and hours of your day to do so. I hope you got a lot out of this video. Don't let your head get overwhelmed. I know in the beginning, especially when you're just starting out with SEO, it can feel like it's a lot to learn, but it's not a complex process. Honestly, it's very, very simple. I'm going to go through this and try to break it down for you as straightforward as possible and in bite-sized chunks, so that you understand everything, how it works, and you really get a good overview. I want to show you how to do this so that you can see that it's very easy. It's very easy to get results. If you put 2 or 3 months of hard work in from there, oh my goodness, your business is going to grow leaps and bounds, and you're going to see crazy results. So I'm going to go through and teach you the methods, some methods to get you really, really fast results as well while you're waiting on the regular SEO, things like video marketing and stuff like that. So I'm really, really excited. I hope you're as excited as I am, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.